Hi, everyone, and welcome to Climate Conversations. I'm your host, Kathy Yang, and today I'm joined by Vanessa Robertson of Geothermal Rising. Vanessa is currently the Director of Policy and Education, and she has studied in international environmental policy. So Geothermal Rising is a nonprofit organization launched in 1972. It specializes in all things geothermal, such as reservoir management, heat pumps, geo-exchanges, and more. Would you like to add anything?
Oh, that was a good overview. Thanks for having me today, Kathy.
Thank you for joining me. Um, so let's just get right into it. Like, what prompted you, what inspired your interest specifically in geothermal energy, and what ultimately led you to be a part of Geothermal Rising?
So prior to being with Geothermal Rising, I was the executive director of a Reno-based environmental education, STEM education nonprofit. So we worked in the K through 12 space, working on professional development, curriculum development that spanned the whole gambit of sustainable energy and energy efficiency. So I worked quite a few years in that space, developing programs, workforce development, working with industry members in all of the sustainability fields and all the renewable energies. And so really got a good look at, all the benefits, of renewable energies and energy efficiency and the importance of engaging students early on to get them excited about going into a similar career field. And so within that space, I worked with, some of our geothermal members like Ormat very closely and decided I needed to take a break from being the executive director of a nonprofit. It's it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Told myself, I wanted to look at the private sector, maybe government. Took some time off and wasn't really looking for another nonprofit job, but with the nonprofit space, it's mission driven, it's vision, and Geothermal Rising really spoke to me on kind of being able to focus on one area of renewable energies and being able to do both education and then tap into my
Mhm.
policy background as you mentioned in my intro was a great opportunity to do that. And although I thought it was gonna I wasn't sure if I was gonna get like bored, just
Mhm.
being in one sector, but the geothermal industry is anything but boring
Oh.
right now. It's really exciting and it's a really great time to be in the space right now.
Mhm.
And I get to work with so many different industry members and organizations and really bridging that gap between education and student workforce, but also the policy space is really exciting.
Wow, sounds great. So you like combine like your previous knowledge, like working with education, but also like policy. That sounds
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about the industry like being like a great time right now. Could you talk about like any new like updates or like what's going on right now? How's it evolving and changing?
Oh, well, we certainly don't have enough time to go into all of it, but
Yeah.
it is, I mean, geothermal power production, energy, electricity generation, and just, heating and cooling and everything. The technology has been around, for technically millennia. We've been, tapping into the
Yeah.
Earth's heat and thermal systems for millennia and, the electricity generation for over 100 years. So, it is a proven technology, but what's really exciting right now is, we're starting to, we've been seeing over the last couple of years, new what we consider next generation technologies
Oh.
emerging from really coming from the oil and gas industry, and so tapping into knowledge of subsurface, exploration and drilling and extraction. And so that workforce and that innovation is really exploding right now.
Hmm.
So much we're seeing just tons and tons of new startups popping up every year and really coming up with some unique ways to harness, the Earth's heat in areas that traditionally weren't even thought of as an opportunity
Oh,
to
wow.
have geothermal
Yeah.
development. So, uh, from engineered and geothermal systems to augmented geothermal systems, which are like the closed loop, to other, Sage Geosystems doing pressurized geothermal reservoirs, taking old oil and gas wells and converting them into geothermal
Oh, that's
wells. There's carbon sequestration and geothermal. There's just so much happening in the space, and so to my earlier point, it's not boring. There's a lot going on and a lot to learn. And the other thing that's really going well for us right now is, I mean, geothermal's always been a really bipartisan issue.
hmm
Both sides of the aisle in the U.S. have really liked it and supported it for various reasons.
Yeah.
And this administration right now is supporting it and putting, additional money and funding and permitting reform to help expand geothermal development across the US. So we're getting the attention
That's good.
that
Yeah.
we finally deserve.
hmm
So very exciting times.
hmm Yeah, like especially as our world, is like heating up, obviously due to climate change, geothermal energy is like a crucial aspect that many nations are trying to consider and implement. Um, so could you go into more detail about, why geothermal energy is so important these days and just like how we can combat climate change through geothermal energy usage?
Yeah. So, I mean, geothermal it's a renewable energy
Hmm.
resource, so we've got infinite supply. The heat from the earth is not going anywhere
Yeah.
anytime soon. So, it's that renewable resource, so very little emissions. We sometimes call it zero emissions, but there's a very, very small amount, but it's like the equivalent of driving like a half a mile
Oh,
in a
okay.
car.
Wow.
It's very little in that sense. So huge opportunity to increase our electricity generation from that. But it's base load, which, means it's on 24/7, 365. It's not dependent on weather like other renewables
Mhm.
are. It's domestically, made. So 90% of all of the materials that are needed to, you know, do the exploration and the power plant are all domestically made in the US. There's a few key components that are currently being manufactured outside of the US, but there's already talks of those companies of trying to come into the US and build
Mhm.
them locally. So that's a huge, huge benefit. It also is a really low footprint, so it really takes up a very small amount of land space, which is
Mhm.
really important to communities, particularly in the West. I'm in Nevada, and
Yeah.
we've got rural communities that want their beautiful desert landscape and want to have grazing and cattle
Mhm.
and preserving wildlife habitat and everything, and you can have all of that with a geothermal power plant. Um, and another like good bonus in there is because it's base load and it can be dispatchable, so it can be ramped up and ramped down depending on the needs of the grid. It can really stabilize the grid, and we're seeing that become a big issue right now in the US. And in general, like we need, the energy demand right now is skyrocketing, and with
Mhm.
data centers and AI, and there's such an opportunity to really lean into geothermal because now with these next generation technologies, you don't have to necessarily, have a certain plant only where you have the heat and the permeability in the water. You can engineer a system, and so you can have geothermal power plants co-located with data centers. And so you could, in theory, and there's a lot of partnerships and agreements that have happened that you can hook up that power plant directly to the data center. So you don't even need to worry
Wow.
about the transmission lines. So you don't communities don't need to worry about their energy costs going up because of this,
Oh,
additional.
that's awesome. There's
So
so
it's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
yeah, yeah, there's so many benefits. Wow. Like it takes up like less space, but most importantly, like the carbon footprint is like so much smaller than like regular fossil fuels. And also that like you said, it doesn't depend on like the temperature or anything or like the weather. It depends on like the Earth's like convection and it keeps going forever. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. Wow.
Yep.
Uh um so regarding geothermal rising, like how can people like me or like teenagers or people of all ages and different backgrounds get involved with this program to help make a change and impact?
Yeah, well, I'm excited you asked that. So, we are a membership-based organization. So we've got, various membership levels, and some are targeted at students really affordably. Uh, just becoming a member and getting access to, all of our networking events. We've got the largest geothermal resource library in the world. So if you're wanting to, study up on it, there's plenty to read up
Hmm.
on. But a big part of what Geothermal Rising's mission is really bringing the geothermal community together and networking and getting, interested students like connected with, an internship or a mentor, or, your first entry level job, or getting you resources on, if you want to pursue, a degree in a focused geothermal
Hmm.
space. We have different resources. Our website, I definitely encourage everyone to check out our website.
Yeah.
It's chock full with lots of information and pointing you in the right direction, to different areas. But we also have regional interest groups that are kind of spread out across the country, and this is really an opportunity for community members and members of the Geothermal Rising community to kind of come together. And we'll have webinars and guest speakers
Yes,
or
webinar.
tours of geothermal power plants, so you can, actually go and see it, and ask those questions. We have our largest, the largest geothermal conference in the world, is hosted by us every single year.
It was
Um,
late October. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in my hometown here in Reno. Every other year
Wow.
it's hosted in Reno because Reno is such a, Nevada in general, we're second in the nation for geothermal
Wow.
development.
Awesome. Yeah.
So our next one is in at the end of September in Houston,
Oh,
which is
nice.
a really exciting place to have it, particularly as we see these next generation companies come about, from the oil and gas, and Texas is, the oil and
Hmm.
gas hub.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're really excited to have it hosted there, and expect it to be quite large.
Oh, that's great. You guys like do a lot of networking. I actually found Geothermal Rising through Earth Science Week's webinars by like American Geosciences Institute. Yeah, that was amazing. I watched the whole thing. It was really fun.
Fun. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you did. That was an initiative that I was like, yes, we want to do this. And
Yeah.
we also put together, a shorter version of that presentation targeted at younger students and teachers. And there's a worksheet that goes along with it. So, those that are interested in sharing, little information about geothermal to a younger audience, there's a short 10-minute video and
Mhm.
a worksheet that students can follow along with as well for that.
Yeah, it's great how you guys like make resources available to students. I think it's a really good learning opportunity.
Great.
Um, and then I guess to close things up, where do you see geothermal rising going in the future? You already mentioned the conference next year, but are there any other projects or more webinars, conferences we should all look out for?
Yeah, well, I just want to see our membership grow,
Hmm.
continue to, grow, have more universities and have more, diverse, companies that are interested in the geothermal space join us and really bring a cohesive voice to the industry, and have a stronger policy voice so we can really move the needle in getting some of these projects implemented
Hmm.
and on the ground so we can get electrons on the ground, but also supporting the heating and cooling geothermal space as well is important to us because electrons on the grid or electrons off the grid, like we need every drop, every kilowatt out there, and the more that we can put on the grid from geothermal, the better. We've got quite a few actually upcoming events even before our conference at the end of next year.
Hmm.
We've got a thermal energy network conference coming up, and then we have a finance forum coming up in Houston as well, and then we have Capitol Hill Day fly-in, where I lead a team and we go and talk to policymakers in
Wow.
DC.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah.
and we do have some really good rates for students for that. I think any students out there that are interested, or anyone that's interested in policy work, it's really, we give you all the talking points, we put you in a small group, but it's a really great experience to be on the Hill and talking with
Hmm.
legislative staff on what's important to us as constituents, because at the end of the day, that's what they're there for, is to listen to what their constituents are wanting and understanding the benefits of geothermal. So lots more events and more
Yay.
members and
Hmm.
more education. I think the AGI webinar that we did was just the beginning. We hope to roll out some more formal outreach and education programs in the next couple of years to really get into the classroom at an early age and start talking to community members, general people about geothermal, so it's not this elusive, scary thing
Yeah.
underground and you don't know what it is. There's a lot of misconceptions about
Hmm.
geothermal energy, so we hope to really address those in the coming year.
Yeah, I know for me personally, and I like a lot of other school districts, like renewable energy, this kind of sustainability isn't really talked at school. It's like it's very like I don't know, underappreciated, and I feel like it would be awesome to see it involved in our curriculum more. At least for me, I would really enjoy it.
Yeah, that was what I did in my last job quite a bit,
Yes,
was like getting
yes.
energy education into the classroom. So
Hmm.
yeah, we hope to do that a lot more. I think it's such a inspiring and fulfilling career space, and it's collaborative and it's innovative, inclusive, and it's a stable sector.
Yeah.
Once the project gets on the ground, like, again, it's a symbiotic relationship between the
Hmm.
operators and the resource. Like, we
Yeah.
we have to maintain it because that's how it works. So it's definitely long-term stability in
Yeah,
careers.
and it's like a growing industry, so there's a lot of job opportunities to come. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is always my pitch with any of our new members. I'm like, we got to do education if you all want to continue growing, and
Yeah,
we need to
yeah.
make sure that pipeline of workers is ready and they're aware of it, they're informed and excited to support the industry.
Hmm. Well, that was really insightful. Thanks for like answering all my questions so thoroughly. You provided some great key points, and I can't wait to see where geothermal energy and geothermal rising goes in the future. Thank you everyone for watching uh, Climate Conversations, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye.